All right, so yesterday's revision to payroll sent shockwaves, not only down Main Street, but of course Wall Street as well. And you know what? It may only be the tip of the iceberg. Remember, we had Danielle Booth on yesterday, and she talked about the reduction being 915,000. By the way, Mike Shetlock also came up with the same number. If you added up all the components, here's the bottom line. The trend is very disturbing. Look at this, minus 612, minus 733, 735, minus 915. It's easy to see why many people believe, A, that this has been sort of a deliberate cover-up, right? And keep this in mind. This is only a preliminary number. There's going to be more adjustments to this. And if you think about that for a moment, according to BLS Commissioner William Beach, these adjustments are going to be made. So what you've got is this, what they call the birth-death model, which normally moves hand in hand with the change in business establishments. That's what we saw yesterday. The number of business establishments went down over 50%. The birth-death model is also going to come down. It's easy to see why some people think that at some point this number could be zero, that we created 0 jobs in the last year. So with that in mind, you say, how can the Fed make decisions based on this kind of faulty data? Interestingly, the Federal Reserve has thrown good old-fashioned observation out the window. The question is, are they relying too much on data? Well, here's a headline for you. Fed Schmidt says that he wants to see more data before they can cut rates. Now, my next guest actually pointed out that the lack of confidence in their models is a major, major issue for the Federal Reserve and will create intriguing possibilities at Jackson Hole. I want to bring in now Independent Institute senior fellow Judy Shelton. Judy, this was a fantastic article in the New York Sun. Intriguing possibilities emerge for the Fed's annual retreat next week. It's not totally confident in its own model. I mean, they've got an army of PhDs. Why are they so reliant on data that's going to eventually be late? They're going to be late. And it's, by the way, this data is becoming more and more unreliable.
There's good reason for all of us to be skeptical about that data, especially when it gives us conflicting results. And we've long had this anomaly between the payroll jobs number and the household survey. And part of it is because some of the numbers are based on people who qualify for unemployment insurance, but we also know there's a lot of new labor out there that may have work permits, but wouldn't be in that qualification. And so you end up getting these conflicting numbers that on the one hand said that we had tremendous job growth, but now we're wondering if that was all a mirage. And so the fact that the Fed is so data dependent should not give us a lot of confidence. I would have much more confidence in the sort of aggregate assessments of the individuals who really participate in the real economy. I think those insights are much more valid.
Now, Alan Greenspan once said that he learned to mumble with great incoherence, and that if he seemed clear to you, then he was being misunderstood. I bring this up because Jay Powell's got to have to deliver a message tomorrow that somehow soothes everyone's nerves. What do you expect, and what would you like to hear from him tomorrow?
Well, we won't hear anything very original. I think we're going to hear more the repetitive message that the balance of risks has now moved from being anti-inflation to needing to support the labor market. It's ironic that on the Fed's own website, they say the Fed really can't do very much about the labor market, that those are determined by structural variables. And we know that the Fed's model really relies on just curtailing demand. They can't do anything to improve supply. So I sometimes wonder, how is the Fed going to explain why inflation came down at all? Is it just because they made the cost of capital so expensive for private business that they couldn't hire people, they couldn't expand, and that's what affected demand? But shouldn't the Fed acknowledge that even when they increase interest rates, it doesn't do anything to curtail economic activity financed by the government? So it's not clear that they're really accomplishing their goal, and yet they stick with that model and claim that they have responsibility for price stability no matter what the government does.
Let me pick up on that, because this reminds me of a piece in this same article we talked about. An interesting sentence in there. You said that the Fed is prepared to passively accommodate such an agenda without passing judgment on its economic merits. In this case, you were talking potential President Harris with decisions that would certainly swell the deficit, could be anti-capitalistic, whatever you want to say, and that the Fed would just have to go along with this. I never thought about that. I mean, were they designed to sort of do whatever to assist the executive branch? Do they ever have a chance to push back?
Well, we know Paul Volcker did push back. And even as he embraced a supply side agenda being put forward by the Reagan administration in the 80s, he said that would give incentives to work, save, and invest. But he said, you can't go on like this, overspending. You have to have a plan to balance the budget. But Fed Chief Powell doesn't like to get into that lane. He says that's not our business. We take the fiscal situation as given. So what I want to know is, the Fed, it's fine. They'll say they don't care about politics, but both Harris and Trump are suggesting that the economic agendas being put forth by their competitor will lead to inflation. They both say that they're looking at future inflation. So now is the Fed ignoring that and saying we're going to go into a cutting cycle no matter what? Because what happens if inflation does start showing up again because of the increased government spending under Harris, or some people think that tariffs will cause an increase in inflation? Won't the Fed have to go back to its model, and its only tool to curtail demand is to raise interest rates?
Wow, that is a real tough one right there, Judy. A lot to think about. Thank you so much. Always appreciate talking with you.
Thanks, Charles.
See you
Great to be
soon.
with you.